Well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining this meeting arranged by Cambridge Past, Present and Future to discuss the proposals for the establishment of a centrally led development corporation for Greater Cambridge. I know a few people in this room, I recognise you, but I'm Patsy Dale. Really pleased to see you. I'm a volunteer with Cambridge Past, Present and Future. I'm also a town planner and a fair number of, well, decades now, sort of working in and around Cambridge. I'm also a resident, and a very long time ago, last century, I did work in 2 development corporations. But my role tonight is to try and make sure everything goes smoothly and we get really best opportunity for question and answer, exchange of views, sharing of information, all the things you've given up your valuable evening to come here and get from us, hopefully. So big thank you for all you attendees, all the panellists, colleagues from Cambridge Past, Present and Future who will be doing the mic and making sure we can hear you all, and for the support from the college on the tech and making the facilities available. So thank you everybody for that. Hopefully you've seen an agenda, so you know the format of the meeting. Just to recap, we obviously have a panel with representatives from a variety of organisations relevant to the question of the establishment of the Development Corporation. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves in a moment, but we have obviously central and local government represented, Cambridge Growth Company, Federation of Cambridge Residents Association, Friends of the CAM, and Cambridge Past, Present and Future, and all of you hopefully bringing views. So I think it's going to be a lively evening. All the panellists will have around 7 minutes to introduce themselves, put forward the information about from their particular organisation's perspective, and we've got about 45 minutes for question and answer, and then I will try and make sure we finish on time and that you get the best person, the right person to respond to the question. And you may get 2 or 3 people responding depending on what kind of question it is, but I will do my best to make sure everything runs smoothly with help from colleagues, obviously. You will know, I think the session is being filmed. We're sort of taking it that by being here, you're accepting that. It will be uploaded for people who aren't able to be here tonight on the CPPF website as soon as possible. So, you know, we're taking it that you're happy for that to happen. We're not expecting that there will be a fire alarm, but obviously one never knows, but it's that way and out that way should anything happen. It's already feeling nice and cozy in here. If it gets too much, please feel free to pop open a window should you need to. Don't want to be drowned out by the sound of snoring because we've made it too warm and cozy. I'm sure it'll be lively enough to keep you awake. Now, can I ask the panellists to introduce themselves, please? If I start with Beth Dugdale. Sorry, Beth, I've introduced, but please introduce yourself.
I will shout because I haven't quite got a mic yet, but I'm Beth Dugdale. I'm the Deputy Chief Exec from the Cambridge Growth Company.
Do you want to come up? Sorry.
Hello, sorry about that. I'm Beth Dugdale. I'm the Deputy Chief Executive from the Cambridge Growth Company.
What's that?
I'm going to do a little intro in a minute, but I think Patsy just wants to get everybody to introduce their name, so I'll come up and talk about that.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Bridget Smith. I'm the leader of South Cambridgeshire District Council.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Nathan Veer. I'm the Environment and Sustainability Advisor at Cambridge Growth Company.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Wendy Blythe, Chair of the Federation of Cambridge Residents Associations, and I'm also on the steering committee of Friends of the CAM, and I'm not mentioned on the agenda, but I'm also trustee of the Federation of Parks and Green Spaces.
Good evening, everyone. I'm James Littlewood. I'm the Chief Executive of the local charity Cambridge Past, Present and Future.
Thank you, James. Eleanor?
Hello, I'm Eleanor Riley, representing the Ministry for Housing, Communities and Local Government.
Thank you. I just want to say I'm going to be timekeeping as well. I'm not doom scrolling, but I will have my phone because we're a tight timescale here, so I want to make sure that I'm doing that. But if you see me looking at my phone, I'm not checking my social media feed. I am trying to manage the meeting. So, without further ado, I'm going to ask Beth to introduce her organisation as
Thank
promised.
you. Thank you. Hi. So I'm Beth Dugdale. I'm the Deputy Chief Exec of the Cambridge Growth Company. The Cambridge Growth Company is an organisation that was formed in 2024. It is a subsidiary of Homes England, which is the National Housing and Regeneration Agency. And we were asked by the department, the Ministry of Housing and Communities and Local Government, to work in the Cambridge area. And I think some of you will have met or come across Peter Freeman, who is the chair of the Growth Company. And really we were asked to look at the opportunities and challenges in the area. And I think my takeaways, and we'll get into more detail and I'll be answering questions as we go, but I think my takeaways from spending 2.5 years working with local stakeholders, working with the Advisory Council, which includes the leaders and some industry experts, has been that I think the story of the success of Cambridge is very well known. I think the challenge for us all to take on and all to collectively look at how we solve are the constraints that are now not only impacting the transformational economic growth that will benefit the country, benefit the region and benefit prosperity locally, but more importantly, the constraints that are actually just having quite a negative impact on the quality of life for existing residents and stopping attracting future residents who would be contributing to those economic jobs across a whole range of different sectors and levels. And that's what we're now looking at. How can we learn the lessons from the past as to a lot of good growth, a lot of great achievements that have been delivered in the area, but constraints such as traffic congestion, water scarcity, foul water capacity, affordable housing. How do we start to address these? And I think it's got to a point where growth has just far outstripped the ability for that infrastructure to keep up. And that's the sort of collective endeavour now. And the government's proposal is to recognise that there is a step change needed in delivery, and a step change that will enable us to reach into the balance sheet of national government. But it's not just about public sector finances, it's also about ensuring that we can leverage the private sector and actually leverage the institutional investors who are looking over a long time period to make the investments and to come and help us collectively solve these issues. Eleanor's going to talk through the proposals that are set out in the consultation, and I will, as I said, get into helping to answer any questions as we go through about the work we've done today and how those proposals look to identify a solution that is a step change and does enable us once and for all to actually tackle these constraints and bring about a greater Cambridge area that actually does deliver the exemplar placemaking and all of the green and blue infrastructure that will enable us to really have a thriving community in this area. So I'll hand over to Eleanor.
Thanks, Beth. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for making time on a now dark Monday evening. We're really, really pleased to have lots of engagement with the government's consultation on establishing a centrally led urban development corporation in Cambridge. I'm here representing the department, and I hope you'll understand that government consultation processes are quite tightly run processes. We have to make sure that everyone who might engage in the consultation has access to the same information. And that means that I'm going to run through a slightly dry presentation, and I'm really happy to take questions and clarifications at the end, but I can't give any information which isn't already in the public domain to make sure that everyone has access to the same information. But hopefully that will enable me to set up a really useful debate and a really interesting debate today. The most important thing, which I'll say several times, is please do, if you haven't already, take the time to read the government's consultation and respond to it online. Please encourage everyone you know to do so too. The more responses, the better. I should also say before I start properly that anything you say this evening can't be taken as a response to the consultation. We need you to go online at Gov.uk or Citizen Space so that we can have the formal responses, and then we can take them into account when we're analysing the full range of responses to the government consultation. So, the consultation itself, the document has a number of chapters, and it starts by setting out a number of facts and figures about why Cambridge matters. As Beth says, it says that despite strong local efforts to match the pace of growth, constraints in housing affordability, transport, water supply and other infrastructure are limiting sustainable growth and the quality of life for existing residents of Cambridge. The consultation explains... I'm very happy to send them round afterwards if that helps. They're all taken from the consultation document itself on Gov.uk. So just trying to make sure that we cover the range of things that it talks about. So the government sets out why it thinks that Cambridge would benefit from a centrally led development corporation. And this is fundamentally because it would align national capabilities with local expertise and insight to enable them together to address the challenges that Cambridge faces. It would understand the local context, benefiting current and future residents. It would be able to deliver the much needed infrastructure because it would have national authority and backing to coordinate infrastructure delivery at scale. It would have the powers to deliver infrastructure directly, and it would be able to leverage in public-private investment, capture land value and crowd in private capital to fund that infrastructure. And, sorry, it is a bit low on the screen. We can send around the slides afterwards if it's helpful. It would provide long-term continuity, which increases investor confidence and is able to deliver better long-term outcomes. The consultation document proposes 5 objectives for the Development Corporation, which build on the things I was talking about from the preceding chapter. So, sorry, panel. We will send them round afterwards, I promise, so you can read them at leisure. I think, okay, I'm on the 5 objectives. So these are transformational economic growth, which would include a significant increase in high-quality jobs and homes, infrastructure-led delivery, setting new benchmarks for connectivity and sustainability, innovative investment, as I said, unlocking the public and private capital to be able to work together, environment and climate, taking a long-term view and delivering environmentally sustainable and climate resilient outcomes, and then really importantly as well, inclusion and opportunity, reducing inequality, delivering affordable housing, and establishing a skills and talent agenda that is open to all. This slide sets out the proposed boundary of the Development Corporation, which aligns with the current combined administrative area of Cambridge City and South Cambs District Council. The consultation document explains that a broad development area would enable a development corporation to deliver and fund strategic infrastructure, maximising the land value capture and funding that it can attract and deploy across the whole area. It would align with the existing boundaries, which makes governance much more simple and enables the Development Corporation to support the draft local plan. It allows for... Oh dear, sorry, I'll be very quick. It allows the Development Corporation to plan coherently and to be flexible and adaptable to all of the challenges and opportunities over the Development Corporation's lifetime. The next chapter sets out the full range of powers that could be granted to a development corporation, and it proposes land acquisition powers, infrastructure powers, transport powers, financial powers and functions, and other operational powers. The proposal is that a development corporation would be given plan-making powers to create a long-term spatial plan for the area within its boundary. This spatial plan would be governed by the same requirements and expectations around consultation and public engagement that apply to the current planning authority. But the proposal is that the Development Corporation wouldn't exercise its plan-making powers until the local plan has been adopted, the current draft local plan, because the government believes that supporting the current draft local plan through to adoption is the quickest way to deliver sustainable growth in Cambridge in the short to medium term. Development management powers would be granted from the outset, and the Development Corporation would be able to use them in two different ways. One would be for sites, big strategic sites, and the other would be to determine applications on sites regardless of their size, which were critical to a big strategic site, so it might be determining the access or something like that. Last but not least, I promise, the consultation document sets out the board of a proposed development corporation. It says that locally elected leaders would be invited to be on the board, and it sets out all of the extensive requirements around transparency and openness. And I will end quickly by repeating what I said at the beginning, that the single most important thing that we would ask of you all, please, is to read the consultation. It's open until the 1st of April, and put your responses in on GovUK and Citizen Space. I'm here and very happy to take technical questions afterwards if that's helpful, but I think I'm coming back off and letting the panel back on. Thank you very much.
Hi there, so I'm next, it seems. So, Nathan Veer, Environment and Sustainability Advisor at Cambridge Growth Company. I've been with the Growth Company supporting Beth and the team for just about a year or so now. Before that, I was working in the Oxcam Pan-Regional Partnership. I was the Environment Sustainability Lead there, and did a number of different things, particularly around looking at a number of different landscape nature recovery projects, looking at some of the great practice that's happening at Ouse Fen, but primarily also being the Secretariat for the Environment Working Group. Bridget here was my chair. Liz Watts was my senior responsible officer, and I've had a great time in supporting Bridget, working across that Oxcam geography to really define a set of overarching environment and sustainability goals that are encapsulated in the Oxcam Environment Principles. They're online, they're linked in the Statement of Local, National and International Significance that was published in October in supporting the Secretary of State's decision to consult on a DevCo. And also there are some elements that have been drawn into the consultation document. Before that, spent a lot of time working in local authorities and supporting local authorities either in transforming their local services or doing culture change and transformation. And that's services all the way from parks and open spaces, sites of special scientific interest, local nature reserves, all the way through to waste recycling, street scene, and highways and transport and street lighting. So bring a huge amount of, I suppose, empathy and understanding from local authorities in terms of what the structures are, but also really much more from a strategic perspective around some of the opportunities that are going to come out from this consultation document, particularly if the government wanted to proceed based on the consultation responses that you all put in place. So with that, a lot of the work that I've been supporting with Cambridge Growth Company and engaging through the Advisory Council has been framed around those Oxcam Environment Principles, of which there are 5. One is around the transition to net zero at scale and at pace. The second one is around achieving landscape scale nature recovery. A third one is around water, fair access and high functioning kind of water systems. One was around circular economy, which is about making best use of the materials available while minimising the environmental impact of them. And then around climate resilience. And hopefully, in reading some of the bullet points that are up on the screen there, through the work that I've done with colleagues and with government as well, you can start to be able to see how something like those Oxcam principles are starting to be woven in to some of these objectives. So the environmental objective was there around high quality, functioning, landscape scale nature recovery opportunities supported by long-term stewardship, which is quite a significant change really. So there is the opportunity starting to come out from this about a desire to be able to do things differently. Equally, in terms of some of the powers, one's around the kind of infrastructure, opportunities around funding, really provide the Cambridge Growth Company in this current space of really looking to deliver some of the benefits that we all want to see, whether that's protection and restoration of chalk streams. Hi, Laura. Where have I gone? You've distracted me now. Chalk streams. Looking at opportunities for strategic landscape scale nature recovery, at how we can really benefit from the agglomeration of benefits of potentially development for biodiversity net gain that is in line with the local nature recovery strategy. From my perspective, a lot of the good work that's already out there does a lot of the hard work. The policy levers are in place, the plans and programmes are in place, the policies within the emerging local plan are in place, local nature recovery is in place, it's been consulted, it's been adopted. All of that links then into BNG, but rather than have 5 acres here of biodiversity net gain or 5 acres here of biodiversity net gain, I think there's the opportunity to think more strategically in size and scale, thinking about tens of square kilometres, 150 square kilometres. And one of the projects that I supported with Bridget on is was over in Burnwood up Murray, over Oxford side, just south of Bicester, where we were working with the agricultural community on projects at 300 square kilometres of space. So I think there's some real opportunities here to draw on the opportunities that have been talked about there, government policy, and the desire for real meaningful landscape scale nature recovery. I'll include recovery of water systems within that as well. And I think there's lots of opportunity within here. So I'll just leave it there if that's okay. Thank you.
Right, good evening. So I'm the leader of South Cambridgeshire District Council, so I'm elected. So one of the things I'm going to talk about quite a lot is the democratic deficit that will result from these plans if they go forward as they've been presented to us. So last Tuesday evening in South Cambridgeshire, we had an extraordinary council meeting, full council meeting. Everybody was there. We've got 2 political parties. And rather unusually, the agreement that broke out was overpowering. We don't normally agree on everything. But what we did agree on was, and we were discussing our response to the consultation. So we were presented with, what we are likely to be submitting to government. So the message was loud and clear. The transfer of planning powers away from the local council and local communities to an unelected body is unacceptable and unnecessary. So what happens with the Development Corporation? And I've just mentioned that Development Corporation on this scale is completely unprecedented. It is 10 times larger than any other development corporation there's ever been in the UK. I think it was Milton Keynes, so 10 times larger. When Milton Keynes was proposed, there was about 30,000 people living within the catchment area. What we have is nearly 350,000 people living within the Greater Cambridge catchment area. So, democracy is arguably far more embedded and far more important to you as people used to a democratic process for the whole of Greater Cambridge. So, currently, planning powers sit with elected members. So I have a planning committee. Cameron Holloway, who's the leader of Cambridge City, has a planning committee. We also have a joint planning committee who deal with all the development around the fringes of Cambridge. So these are elected people making decisions. And if you don't like the decisions we make, you can get rid of us. All right? I've got all up elections in about 6 weeks' time. And if you think I'm doing a rubbish job and making decisions that you don't like, then that's the end of me, and you'll elect somebody who you think can do a better job. What you end up with a development corporation is the vast majority of people on it are unelected. So they will be professionals, specialists, and I'm sure they will be very, very high caliber. But, assuming the DevCo gets going in the next year, there will be all these specialists, these experts. There'll be me, there'll be Cameron, there'll be Lucy Netzinger, the leader of the county council, and there'll be the mayor. Once we're having local government reorganisation, I'm sure you lot are all very engaged. I'm sure you know that we're doing away with these two-tier government, two-tier local government. So we're going to end up with a unitary. Most likely it'll be a unitary for Greater Cambridge. So there'll be one leader. So the democratic involvement on the DevCo will be the leader of the new unitary and the mayor. So that's even less. So I am I'm the mouthpiece of my own community, and because I'm the leader, I'm the mouthpiece for the whole of South Cambridgeshire, and I sit on the board of the combined authority as well. So I speak on a wider panel there as well. So that makes me very, very, very concerned. The loss of planning powers. So again, we're having this largely unelected body making decisions about planning. What's really concerning is that this is proposed to be for a 25-year period. Now, sometimes governments intervene and they take planning powers away from councils, usually because they're doing a rubbish job, or they're not delivering on government's priorities. Now, actually, the Greater Cambridge Planning Authority this year has won the award for being the best planning authority in the whole of the UK. So one of my members on Tuesday said, surely this means we're being punished for our success. And we are very, very successful in delivering on development. So in 24-25, we delivered 2,265 new homes in Greater Cambridge. And of those, very importantly, and this really matters to me and it matters to Cameron, 687 were affordable homes. We've got 37,000 new homes across all these big new strategic sites, Waterbeach, Northstowe, Bourne, Camborne West, and so on. Awful lot of them aren't built for various reasons. Until quite recently, we had 9,000 permitted approvals on hold because there wasn't any water. So, these were homes that people need. They're homes that I'm sure your children need. I'm sure the people working in your businesses and your friends and neighbours need as well. So they weren't being built because there wasn't any water. And that's not a problem that we and local government can solve. That's a national issue, which has to have national intervention. So we wrote to government. I wrote to government 4 years ago and said, we've got some big problems here, which is slowing growth. Actually, it's stopping growth. And the water supply was the big one. That's actually now been superseded with the crisis we have in wastewater. So the government was going to, hugely upgrade as well as move the wastewater treatment plant, which currently sits in Cambridge City. We agreed to move it out into South Cambridgeshire, and there was 400 million allocated.
Move it into the green belt.
I agree. Yeah, no, I agree. But anyway, and there was 400 million allocated for that, and that money's now been withdrawn. There is only 400 million currently allocated towards this new development corporation. That's pitiful compared with what other development corporations have allocated to them, the tune of billions of pounds. And this sort of, we have a long-standing infrastructure deficit, as well as the water and the wastewater. Energy is a problem. We had to intervene to put in 2 new substations in order to allow the building of the new cancer hospital and the new children's hospital. So this goes back a long way. So again, I'm not going to talk much longer, but so our concern is within South Cambridgeshire that this leaves a democratic deficit. It means that the voice of the elected representatives isn't heard as strongly as one would hope it would be. We're not making the decisions. We're not doing our own local plan. So we've currently just closed the consultation on the new local plan, which I think has, and I'm looking at Toomey, who leads on this for me, has 77,000 new homes in the new local plan. So that's more growth than that's being delivered anywhere else in the country. So we're very, very good at delivering growth. And it's green growth, it's sustainable growth. So our mantra in South Cambridgeshire is about being green to our core. And, that underwrites all our policies, and everything we do is about enhancing the environment, from greening our fleet to making sure that houses that we're responsible to are built to very high energy efficiency standards, include renewable energy, and so on and so forth. And our emerging local plan wants 20% biodiversity net gain. The government's only asking for 10%, and I'm very worried that if these plans come to the fore, as we're being consulted on, actually that will be reduced, and 10% biodiversity net gain is very easy to miss altogether, whereas we wanted 20% as a minimum. So we are very concerned. We acknowledge that we have serious infrastructure problems that we need government's involvement to help us solve. What I said to the Minister when I met him a few weeks ago was, we can work with you. We don't need you to take our planning powers. We don't need you to introduce a democratic deficit, which most of our residents will be very unhappy with. We can work with you because we want good growth in the right places, delivering nature recovery, nature enhancement, which actually benefits the environment, that prepares us all for the low carbon living, which undoubtedly is our future. And we can work with you to do this. We don't need you to do what I'm afraid a Labour government likes doing, which is talking about devolution, but actually this is centralisation, taking it all into their control.
Just checking, can everybody hear me well? Most residents don't even know there's a government consultation on setting up an urban development corporation. Why hasn't every household received a leaflet? There've been no drop-in events, no posters, no information on the council's websites. Cambridge City councillors discussing the consultation last week were told the council's response would come from the council leader, a member of the Growth Company's advisory board. Residents are saying this denies their elected representatives and the people they represent an effective voice on a very important decision which will impact everyone living in this area. Last week, the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, said that £800 million will be available to kickstart development around Oxford and Cambridge. The government's ambition for Greater Cambridge is up to 150,000 new homes, along with new labs and offices by 2050, as it seeks to drive economic growth by building on the city's science sector success. This is more than the current number in the City and South Cambridgeshire combined. A report for the City Council adds that, based on historic precedents, a Greater Cambridge Development Corporation delivering 100 to 150,000 additional homes and associated infrastructure by 2050 might require total public and private investment of £25 billion to £50 billion. The government's position is that investment will come from the uplift in the value of land acquired once planning consent has been granted. The press report the Chancellor had this message for people who own land wanted for development. Government will use new compulsory purchase powers to get stalled sites moving, secure fair land deals where landowners hold to unreasonable expectations, and reinvest the uplift in value into new homes, infrastructure, and regeneration. It's unclear what counts as unreasonable expectations as far as the government is concerned. But it's disturbing that they don't want locally elected reps to have a say about planning and what constitutes sustainable development, because that should mean looking first at environmental constraints and what is sustainable, and then what can be developed. A corporation set up with economic growth as its chief objective, without scrutiny from local elected reps, means people here could be facing unfettered development and then looking at how this can be mitigated. It's unrealistic and reckless and very undemocratic. What if it can't be mitigated? The biggest sustainability issue is, of course, water. This is the driest region in the UK with a known water shortage and massive sewage issues. the population of Cambridge and the surrounding area has grown very substantially over the last 20 years. Plans were already in place for further very rapid expansion. In July 2023, growth expectations were ratcheted still higher when it was reported Michael Gove was drawing up proposals for Cambridge and the surrounding area that included plans for 250,000 new homes. Later that year, he reduced this target to 150,000 homes. For 2 district councils, that's a pretty astonishing amount of growth, said Stephen Kelly, Greater Cambridge Shared Planning Service Director. He went on, "It sometimes feels like people are operating in something of a conceptual vacuum. These are just numbers, but if you understand that the city of Cambridge has 53,000 houses, then the idea of building 5 more Cambridges in 20 years begins to look somewhat challenging. It took 50 years to build only slightly more than 100,000 homes in Milton Keynes. And then there was the biggest obstacle, water. He said, our water scarcity issue makes it slightly indulgent to try and meet the country's housing need in a place that doesn't have any water. It was announced that supply would be increased through a new reservoir in the Fens, which would deliver 43.5 megalitres per day, and a new pipeline to transfer 26 megalitres per day from Grafham Water, currently used by Affinity Water. But according to Stephen Kelly, a new reservoir would only solve supply requirements for the existing local plan and is, quotes, not sufficient if you start to go beyond that, a point that was conceded in the water scarcity document. He also pointed out the problem would be compounded by the fact that the Environment Agency was expected to begin capping abstraction licenses in 2 steps in 2030 and 2040. So, at the same time as you're getting some new supply, you're also finding that your ability to draw water from the ground is going to be reduced, said Mr. Kelly. The next stage of the proposed Fens Reservoir near Chatteris has been delayed because they don't know how they're going to fill it with water. We've heard very little from the Cambridge Water Scarcity Group set up to work on water credit schemes, which will, if put in place, enable developers to offset development through the purchase and sale of water credits to ensure they have a neutral impact on water scarcity within Cambridgeshire. The October review of Cambridge Water's Water Resources Management Plan by the EA, Ofwat and DEFRA says there is a significant risk that the company will rely on unsustainable abstraction until at least 2032. This, of course, poses a major threat to the CAM chalk streams. Removing elected reps from the planning process will not generate a single extra litre of water. Meanwhile, the Chancellor says the focus of Oxcam growth will be on water-thirsty data centres and AI. Who gets priority if our taps run dry? As a councillor highlighted last Thursday, it seems Cambridge residents are being required to take one for the team, but it's clear that we are already breaching the limits of what our environment can sustain. A body designed to prioritise growth ahead of all other considerations and insulated from democratic input will only accelerate the damage. Planning must be in the hands of democratically accountable councils who understand the ecological reality on the ground and are there to represent residents, many of whom are not seeing any benefits from large-scale growth and the billions of pounds that Cambridge contributes to the UK economy.
Good evening. Could everyone hear me? Brilliant, thank you. Good evening, everyone. So this isn't a consultation about whether we should have a development corporation. The government's already decided that. This is a consultation about the powers it should have and the geographic area that it should cover. There is a problem with this, though. So development corporations are established through existing legislation, and that legislation explicitly requires that the decision-making board of a centrally led development corporation is not made up of majority elected representatives. In other words, it's deliberately designed to take decision-making away from local politicians. The logic is that experts, or those who don't have to worry about being elected, can make better or take more difficult decisions. So even if in this consultation we all say we want a majority of elected representatives on the board, that's not something that we can have. So, 'cause whatever your views might be of local politicians, they are a cornerstone of local democracy. And as Bridget has said, we vote for them to represent us, and particularly we vote for them to represent us and make decisions about the future of our city. And if we don't like what they do, as Bridget said, we can vote them out. So that's important because this gives every voter in the city a stake or an influence in the future of the place where they live. And it also, importantly, gives our politicians a mandate for change. And a development corporation takes that away from the politicians, and it takes that away from us as voters. So what are the problems that the Development Corporation is intended to solve? So as Bridget said, Greater Cambridge already has a high-quality, award-winning planning service. It's delivering a large number of homes and employment, and it already has plans for 37,000 more homes and 10 years' worth of employment space. Our area, however, does suffer key infrastructure deficits which planners cannot solve. So this includes the utility infrastructure, so the water, the wastewater and the electricity. It includes transport infrastructure, but importantly it also includes green and blue infrastructure, such as parks and nature reserves and our chalk streams. And it includes social infrastructure, such as schools, health and cultural facilities. All of these infrastructure deficits need to be addressed to create a greener, fairer city that improves quality of life for everyone. But I think the main challenge we face is that housing is too expensive. People working in Cambridge cannot afford to live in Cambridge and are instead living increasingly further away, including in Suffolk, Essex, Hertfordshire, Bedfordshire and wider Cambridgeshire. In turn, this is creating transport and environmental problems. So over the past 20 years, despite planning permission being available for tens of thousands of homes, the private housing market has not been able to deliver housing that is affordable to working people. So without changes to the way that the housing market operates, having a development corporation will not solve Cambridge's main growth problem. I think most commentators would agree that our growth problems have been exacerbated by too many local authority bodies, politics and bureaucracy. Local government reorganisation will remove one of the layers of government, but will add a new one in the form of a development corporation. So there will then be tension between a new unitary authority, between the strategic authority for Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, and a future development corporation, all of whom will have planning and transport responsibilities and who might have different political leadership and ideology. In short, Greater Cambridge does not need help with planning, nor does it need more confusing layers of responsibility. I think it needs 4 things. Firstly, I think it needs a bold, comprehensive and coherent vision to endure the test of time and political changes, like the Finger Plan for Copenhagen or the Circulation Plan for Ghent. Secondly, it needs a radical change to the way the housing market operates. Thirdly, we do need help with infrastructure. That's both funding from government and government intervention to make it happen. And fourthly, I think it's the ability to plan strategically for the Cambridge economic area, including parts of neighbouring counties and districts. The proposed geographic area for the Development Corporation is just the administrative boundaries of Cambridge and South Cambridgeshire. Delivering such an ambitious plan requires a transparent, inclusive process for creating the vision. The Greater Cambridge Partnership stands as a cautionary tale of what happens without one. Conventional consultation of the kind used for local plans and local transport plans is not enough. It reaches too few people, it's too technical, and it asks too much of those who engage with it. We believe a citizens' assembly, informed by a broad range of experts, needs to be a key component in the process of developing a vision. The Lambeth curbside strategy is an example of a fairly radical plan that's succeeding, at least in part because it emerged from a citizens' assembly on climate change. A democratic mandate is essential for controversial change. It is unlikely that the leaders of the relevant local authorities will come to consensus views on controversial change. For example, they might agree to the principle of light rail, but not to the details of where it's located or the congestion charge which would be needed to make it financially viable. I believe the Greater Cambridge Development Corporation's plan needs to be based on a manifesto put to a vote and led by a democratically accountable public representative. This is the only proven model for rapid transformational change in democratic societies. For example, in London under Ken Livingstone, in Manchester now under Andy Burnham, and in Paris under Anne Hidalgo. And the same is also true of Ghent, Groningen, New York and Bogota. The development corporation that's proposed in this consultation is experimental and I believe will add yet more complexity, political conflict and waste of public funds. It will add to public confusion around powers and responsibilities and mistrust in government. This is a complete opposite of the democratic mandate that's needed for change. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me all right? So, that's great. Now is your opportunity to ask the panel questions. We do have roving mics, so one for each side, I think, and then I will try and find the right person on the panel, or you can say who it is you'd like to answer. When you ask your question, could you just say who you are and maybe what organisation you represent? If you're representing an organisation, don't worry if you're asking as a resident. Okay, I'll start with this gentleman over here.
Yes, hello, I'm Cameron Adams, I'm retired. I used to work for the Environment Agency, now involved with the University of the Third Age. Just a very quick observation. Why is there nobody here from the government speaking? I mean, I appreciate your position. No, you're not the government. Sure, are you elected? You're an official. Why isn't no one here from the Labour government standing here now, politically, telling us why this should work?
Well, actually, Cameron was asking why is there no one here from government, and that's probably because we didn't invite them, in fairness to them, although not deliberately, but we have organised this event at quite short notice, so we are actually grateful for the Grove Company and for MCLHG for sending a representative along.
Okay.
But actually, Cameron, could I add to that? Sorry, could I just add to say, as well as completing the consultation, if you would like to, you can contact your MP about this. This is national government intervening in Cambridge. Your MP is a representative to national government. By all means, contact them about your concerns about this. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to do this gentleman here, then you next, and then...
Okay, you can hear me.
Yes.
Sometimes it's a good idea not to just look at the ground. If you look up in this room, you see a sign above the stage which says, "Ring True." It's clearly the motto of Wolfson College. Some things that have been said don't ring true, and some do. The question that I'm concerned about is the capacity and ability and interest of the Development Corporation in conforming to the laws, the Climate Change Act 2010. In this region, we have 1 year, maybe not even 1 year, a few months probably, given that we use up carbon at a greater rate, 25% greater rate than other places, the average. We have 1 year left of our carbon budget, our legally mandated carbon budget, to 2050. How can a plan for sustainable growth live within the carbon budget? Thank you.
I think Nathan or Beth?
I agree. Is this one working? Hello. I mean, broadly, I agree. Climate is broken down. We're seeing the effects of climate breakdown year on year, and I think we've all kind of witnessed that. I think a lot of the challenge is how we go about doing that, and I think for my part, from a transition to net zero and impact on climate change, what is clear is that the change needs to be massive, and it needs to be now. So a lot of principles that I'm trying to build in, working with colleagues, is to make sure that climate resilience.
Could I just say,
and
do you or do you not plan to break the law? Please answer yes or no, because there is no way in which the current plans can stay within the legally mandated carbon budget to hold us to net zero by 2050. If you plan to break the law, say so.
So I'm not going to answer that question, because this isn't me breaking the law or not otherwise. But actually, the threat is, I think, even greater than you are actually articulating now. So there's something for those people who understand planning. There is something called the National Planning Policy Framework, which is the planning rules that are set by government. Now, they are currently going through the House of Commons at the moment. And they actually row back on what the current regulations are for climate change mitigation, for adaptation to climate change, for biodiversity net gain, and so on. So the emerging joint local plan we have at Cambridge City, and we're very, very aligned. So, can I just, people keep talking about Cambridge. This is Greater Cambridge we're talking about. Can I just, please... Right, okay, this is Greater Cambridge, and actually most of any growth that's going to happen is going to happen in my patch, not your patch. But very soon we're all going to become one patch. So it matters very much to all of us. But actually, our emerging local plan, if you'd like to look at that online, what's coming out of the National Planning Policy Framework actually undermines 3 of the strands of that, about building housing to the highest energy efficiency standards, about delivering nature enhancements, and so on. So now this is something that we're seeing worldwide. We're seeing governments worldwide row back on this, and it's a massive concern. And I'd like to say, I'll just do a bit of politics here. As Liberal Democrats, actually, I think our green values and our green policies are the strongest there are in the country, and hopefully you'll get a strong Liberal Democrat voice in central government on this.
Thanks, Bridget. I think we'll move on. Lots of questions. We've got 2 people lined up, so you're next. Thank you.
Martin Lucas-Smith, speaking purely as an individual. Firstly, I just want to speak up for the many people in the city who don't have a house. I think looking at this room, about probably 90% of people here probably are house owners. And I think it's very important that we remember this is a city of extreme inequality in which people cannot afford to live. And which the kind of housing that has been built has often been rather unsustainable. So I think we need to somehow the water issue has to be solved, but we also have a housing crisis. And frankly, I think the issue the way to solve that is actually to really invest in cities of the post-industrial areas in the north and so on, as well as here, so that actually the sort of imbalance across the country is evened out. That's the only way that we can solve this. But my main point that I wanted to ask was about. So several speakers talked about the pro-democratic deficit, but really, I mean, there's one thing that's more annoying to people in Cambridge than potholes, and it's the number of council bodies that we have. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous the way we are governed. We have a city council and district council. We have a county council. We have a Greater Cambridge Partnership. We now have a combined authority, and we're now going to have a 5th layer of local government. And I mean, this is really a message I want to take back. I really think the government, MHCLG in particular, needs to listen to, is that a lot of the kind of democratic deficit comes from the fact that basically people have no idea who decides what, and that all of these bodies are completely at war with each other and basically can't agree. And what we actually need to do is to compress all 5 of them into a single body. At the moment, you have a local council who basically broadly agrees with the government agenda. In the middle of that, you've got a Conservative mayor from 50 miles away who knows very little about Cambridge's sort of policies or culture or anything like that. you know, what we need is basically a Greater Cambridge Council that has strategic powers. In other words, give the mayoral powers to the new council, and have a growth company essentially acts as an internal body that can deal with housing, but then takes it to a democratic planning policy committee. So I'd really like, you know, MHCLG to take back the fact that Cambridge is overgoverned, and it's, you know, you look at places like Barcelona and that have really had incredible public realm schemes and all sorts of things, and they've got the power to deliver in a democratic way because everyone knows there's a single council who just gets on with it and has got a democratic basis. So, bit of a rant there, but I think, you know, let's deal with this over-governance problem, and that is the way to get delivery working much quicker. Because at the moment, if you want to build a greenway, you've got to go through a GCP assembly, a GCP board, goes to consultation, then those two bodies again, then the county council, and then the mayor interferes and so on. And it's completely ridiculous just to build small things. So thank you.
Thanks, Martin. I'm not going to ask my colleagues from the Growth Company or the MHCLG clearly to speak on that. But Bridget's going to answer, and then I think Wendy wants to make
Right,
a point.
so I hope I don't have to answer all the questions, so I hope there's some my colleagues can do as well. Okay, so I know it appears complicated. So firstly, just a correction. A development corporation would not be local government, all right? That is central government, that's not local government. So I know it seems complicated here, but actually it's just not true that we all are fighting and hate each other, because actually when Michael Gove rocked up here when he was minister, one of the things he said to one of his civil servants was, God, this place leaks like a sieve. Now, the reason was that we all talk to each other, actually. So the collaboration that's within the Greater Cambridge area, you won't see it anywhere else in the country, because actually, even, you know, obviously we're entering silly season of elections now, where, you know, we have to win elections. Outside of election time, actually, we all get on really well, and we work really collaboratively. So Cambridge City Council and South Cambridgeshire Council, we have this award-winning joint planning service. We have a shared waste service. We have shared building control. We have shared HR. We share IT with Huntingdon and so on, actually. So there is phenomenal collaboration here. And actually, not only do we collaborate, actually, we really quite like each other, all right? So, you know, things can get a bit scratchy with the mayor. I won't pretend that, you know, that it's all a loving with the mayor, but, you know, he's got a different job to do, and my job and Cameron's job is to make sure that we get what's the best for Greater Cambridge. But, you know, hopefully, depending on what decision the minister makes in the summer, we will end up with a single council for Greater Cambridge, which will make things simpler for you, because, you know, people talk about the council, and I agree, you know, there is more than one council, but it will be the council. We will still have parish councils. You will probably still have these. You have neighbourhood teams, don't you? I think in Cambridge City, you will still have that. But, you know, when I met with when Jim McMahon was the local government minister, he got the sack some time ago, and he talked about the reason for local government reorganisation, and he said, well, we need to get rid of all these elected members. He said, you know, there's one county where there's 400 people elected, as if that was a bad thing. Now, you know, as far as I'm concerned, actually, that's a really good thing. That's more people representing you. It's more of you involved in it with a voice. And actually, what ministers need to realise, these are the people who deliver all their blinking leaflets and things come election time. So actually, we're the workforce as well. So having lots of people elected actually is really good for democracy. And countries, we know, which are dictatorships, are the opposite of democratic.
I do agree with all that. It's more with the mayor, I think.
Okay. I just wanted to add a point to what Martin said. Yes, I agree about the housing issue, but I think one of the problems, the huge problem that Cambridge has, is a problem of affordability. We just don't have enough affordable houses. And one of the things I did leave out of my text was that one of the things that Stephen Kelly said, the fundamental process of building houses these days is about managing margins. And the very last thing he said that the house builders are going to do is build houses where they're not convinced they will have people to buy them. So there are some real challenges in whether the market is going to step up. And I think that's, again, something for our development corporations to sort.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, everyone. We have... Oh, yeah, Beth.
Thank you. Just to come back on the housing point, because I completely agree. I mean, it's one of the things that has been so acute, the affordability pressures in the area. And working for the National Housing and Regeneration Agency, as I have done for the best part of 20 odd years, we have got a depth of experience around ways in which we can start to look at changing the housing market. And it is to James's point about how the developers are operating and what that market is looking like. We need to look much broader than the traditional 10 years of just open market sale housing and a difference between affordable housing and open market sale. We've got to look at the demographic of the area. We need to look at all of the tenures that are available in the marketplace, and there are many more tenures now. We need to look at opportunities for co-living. We need to look at opportunities for the build-to-rent sector so that we can start to actually meet the needs of the demographic and the communities in the area. And that's something we're really keen to do, and to build into any work that we do. There's absolutely a need to ensure that there's a minimum of meeting the sort of levels of affordable housing that are already set out in the local plan policy. We're fully behind all of that and very supportive of the work that's gone on in the local plan. But I think there's an opportunity to do more as well. And there's an opportunity, to the gentleman's point earlier, around looking at the needs of people in the area and making sure that we're meeting the needs beyond just a model that is about being able to buy a house or not. Not everybody is fortunate to be in that position anymore, and we've got to make sure that there is a full range of housing, and that does. And we've had a lot of research from the work we've done as the Homes England. We've looked at what it does to absorption rates. We've looked at what that then does to the market pricing, and it will start to shift, and it does help. You also need to make sure that you are providing enough affordable housing that's dealing with the in-commuting patterns as well. So just to reassure people that we fully support the what's been said here today about the need to address all of this, and that is absolutely central and has been has come up in the advisory council with the leaders as well, as we've spoken to them about housing need as well.
Thank you, Beth. Just to let you know, first question here. Somebody very patiently had their arm up for ages, almost in the back row, and then I've a third question here, and then I'll come back and capture our next set, if we'll just get through those three. So I can see there are people. So Tim.
Hello, I'm Tim Griffin. I'm a city councillor representing the Coleridge ward. And I just wanted to say I hope everyone can watch on YouTube the meeting we had on Thursday night at the city council, where we essentially came up with the same cross-party agreement that we don't think that we don't want to lose our award-winning planning agency, and that there's no reason to, that we can cooperate and work with the Development Corporation. And so the response from us, a collective response, is going to be hands off the planning body. And the other thing is we know we need infrastructure, we know we need help there, and so that's welcome. But there is concern about the democratic deficit, and I would like someone from the government to answer that, because we're going to have a unitary soon, and does that mean even less representation?
Thank you, Tim. Beth, do you want to have a go at that?
Thank you. So I think to reiterate what Alan said at the beginning of the session, that we really do welcome all of these views, and please do put them into the consultation, because that is the way in which you will get the answer directly from the government on this, and they will be looking at all of the views put in and responding to those. So that's the connection through to the minister making the decision and to have that dialogue. So it's really important that it's not just raised in this room, that it is actually put into the consultation. Can I just take a minute to talk through some of the challenges that we face and why the proposals have included taking the planning powers and development management powers? So what we need to I think collectively have got some consensus in the room around a need to really invest in infrastructure, and that being the broadest sense of infrastructure. So this is about infrastructure that supports sustainable growth. So blue-green infrastructure, affordable housing, the right, we haven't touched on health provision, but across the whole, what is needed to create thriving communities. And in order to leverage the sort of investment into that we need to also demonstrate that there is certainty of the recovery of that money. And even if that is national government providing the money, it's all of our taxpayers' money, we do need to have certainty that we can actually recoup that money and that will come back. It's needed we've spoken about transport in the session tonight, so if for those who aren't aware, we are doing a piece of work with the Combined Authority looking at the first sort of stage of, it's formally called a strategic outline business case, but I appreciate that sounds a bit jargony, but looking at what a mass rapid transit system could be for the Greater Cambridge and to support the growth that is proposed. And in order to justify that, you do need to have the patronage and the scale of use of that to obviously pay for it as well. So a lot of this is about having certainty that you can have a level of growth that repays against the investment up front. And that's to ensure that government will invest into the area, but also so that the confidence, so that the market will equally invest, and patient capital investors, pension funds, etc., to try and bring them into the area so that we can fund the infrastructure, because that's the biggest challenge we've all got. We can look out at the macroeconomics in the world at the moment. It's a really, really challenging environment, and trying to attract that level of funding which is needed is absolutely essential. But we do recognise that we don't want to do this in a way that that doesn't take on board what's been said tonight about the award-winning planning service. We are talking to the Stephen Kelly and his team about service level agreements. We are looking at ways in which we can partner and jointly work together with that. So it's really important for us that we explore all of those options, and decisions haven't been made yet as to how that is going to happen. So I think, just again reinforcing, please do put your views in. I think the thresholds is one to look at in the consultation document as well. So that will govern the level, the point at which a development corporation would look at development management and look at the size of sites that are coming forwards. And I really would recommend you look at that part of the consultation and have a think about what you think a strategic site scale would be, where you could see the benefits of having a development corporation taking a view on that, but leaving much of the rest of the activity to the local planning.
Thank you, Beth. I'm going to get the person at the very back row, who's my number 2 question. And I have
Can you hear me?
in a beautiful rust shirt. That's the best I can describe you. You're next.
Okay,
Sorry,
can you hear me?
You're next, and then you.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
And then I'll take some more, if we can just get through your question. Sorry.
Okay, so my name's Hugh Clough. I'm a local Green councillor in Newnham. And I'd like to thank Beth and Nathan and Eleanor for their apparently comforting words. But I think it was the first time that I listened to Peter Freeman at the City Council that when I heard him use the phrase, that he regarded him or the Development Corporation as being beyond the political cycle. When I first realised in a chill world that this is what we're talking about, is in all honesty an iniquitous power grab from taking our democratic rights away from us. And I think really as every resident here must wake up and smell the coffee and realise what is going on. And I think there's no way that we can accept any of this unless, for instance, we as a community in a referendum decide to cede our democratic rights to this unelected organisation. So I wonder if the panel would agree with me that a referendum is the best way forward. Thank you.
Well, the thing that concerns me, you're right, I think there is a democratic, but people don't know what's going on here. I mean, I have complained that, for example, no leaflet has been put through anyone's doors. And that's particularly scandalous in South Cambridgeshire because they've recently sent their council magazine that went out to every door in it. So it really wouldn't have taken very much effort to put a flyer into that to let people know. So I'm not sure whether we need to go as far as a referendum, but I am really concerned that the majority of people in the city and the surrounding area don't know what's being proposed, and what's being proposed has a democratic implication for them. So I think that really is a kind of failure of government consultation on that. But I think, as I said in what I said at the start, really, is that I think we do need sort of one authority, one large authority that has all the powers, that covers the greater Cambridge area and that is led politically and has a political mandate for change. We can vote them in or vote them out, but that's going to be the basis of it. Whether we have a referendum on this or that, I'm not sure that you go down having referendums for everything. But I do think government is confused here about what it's doing. And I'm not sure if I should say this or not, but I met Daniel Zeichner last week to have a chat with him about this, and he pretty much admitted that the mayoral system for Cambridge and Peterborough is not working. I mean, everyone knows that. Everyone in this room knows it's not working. But we've got to have it because nationally, that's what government's mandated. We've got devolution, and that's what's going to happen. So we've got something we know is not working, and that no one's prepared to put the hand up and say, this isn't working, let's do something different. And I guess that we can all see that, and we're all frustrated by that. And this, we haven't learnt a lesson from what happened with the Greater Cambridge Partnership, really, which was, it was a mess. Let's solve the mess by bringing in, another organisation to sort of, on top of that, to try and sort the mess out. And look how badly that went. And then we're just going to repeat the same thing here. Oh no, it's not working. Let's have a development corporation to come in and create a load more mess. So I share your frustration around this.
I think it's very important to give people a sense of I think it's very important that people have a sense of ownership. I was just talking to members of the Development Corporation just now. The Growth Company now. I think what we've lost in Cambridge is a sense of ownership about that we feel that we have a say locally. I mean, if you ask most people what do they really care about, they care the people they love, their health, where they live, have got enough money to work, etc. It's very hard, I think, in Cambridge to feel a sense that what you do, you can actually who do you go and see about it? If you've got a problem, can you see your councillor? Will we be able to see our councillor in future if you've got a problem?
Okay, thanks, Wendy. Conscious I've got 4 questions already lined up. So if I can take a few of those and perhaps pick the panel to try and answer them. So you're number 3, you're number 4. So if we take those 2, is that all right? And then I'll get the panel.
I'm Jason Palmer. I've lived...
No, he's caught my eye, but other people have also caught my eye, and I'm trying to cue them. So if we get... I've actually got two women lined up. I won't answer that one. It's not deliberate on my part, but we have two questioners.
You'll have to forgive me for being another man. I'm sorry. I'm Jason Palmer. I've lived in Cambridge for 30 odd years, most of my working life. I find James's, I don't know James at all, but I find your ideas about this 4-step plan for Cambridge extremely persuasive. I think that looks like a really attractive way out of this potential trap. But my question is for Eleanor. We've got this consultation. As James said, we haven't got the opportunity to say no to the Development Corporation, whether we want it or not. But what's the way that we can use this consultation process to achieve some of what James is asking for, some of his 4-stage plan?
Yeah, sorry, can I just get the next question? Sorry. And then we'll get to the answers.
Hello. Councillor Imi Blackburn-Horgan, thank you very much. So I wanted to ask, what concrete goals does the DevCo have and what oversight? What infrastructure would be provided? How do you define affordable housing? Co-living means houses of multiple occupancy, and from a local survey of key workers, only 14%, that's 1/4, NHS workers want HMOs. They said that people want their own front door. Also, how will you protect our chalk streams? Thank you.
Thank you. Eleanor and Beth, will you take those two together, please?
I will definitely answer the question about the consultation, and I'm really sorry, it's the really obvious answer of please respond really fully. We tried to make the questions really open so that you can put in exactly what you want to, and I can absolutely guarantee every single answer will be read and will be considered by... I promise they will all be read and considered.
I'll come back on the question in relation to what the concrete goals are. I mean, this is obviously a long-term plan. It needs to be a long-term plan to succeed. And we are at the start of that journey, and we are in the process of trying to determine the first stage of the question, which is what is the growth rate that can actually be delivered by looking at the economic trajectories. I mean, it's a very similar place that has been looked at for things like the economic modelling work that underpins the local plan. So that's step one. Step two is then looking at, well, what does that mean for population growth? What does that then mean for the services and the infrastructure that need to support it? So the next stage is to look at what the infrastructure may be required, how many schools there might be, how many libraries, what sort of green spaces, what level of affordable homes, different tenures. And I appreciate there are many studies we've looked at, for example, the Cambridge Biomedical Campus and its housing study that it produced recently. We are gathering all of this information and we are talking to all of the campuses in the various different areas, but also looking more generally across population and the type of demographic growth that you're going to see. I can't give you an answer today as to exactly what all of those requirements are in 25 years, but that is the work we are doing at the moment. And it is taking us some time because the first stage of doing that work was actually not to start from scratch. That was a clear message that the Advisory Council gave us. It was to look at all of the evidence that has been completed in the area and to build upon that. And that's where what we've been working on, so that we can then say to government that this is deliverable, but it's only deliverable, the economic growth at this scale is only deliverable if this level of infrastructure is provided, and detailing what that is. Obviously that is then a dialogue with Treasury, with private sector and others to look at ways in which the funding strategy is built upon to support that. One of the key things that a development corporation can do is borrow against future income streams. That will enable the development corporation to have a balance sheet that can actually fund and deliver the infrastructure. But the first stage really is to get that detailed assessment of what is needed in a considered way, so that we can work through over a time period of probably more than 25 years, to be honest. I mean, it's really going to be an endeavour that is 25 years plus to deliver the scale of infrastructure and support that is required to enable the growth.
Doesn't you've got a 130 strong planning service? Isn't that what they've been doing as well? Sorry, I'm just getting confused.
So the planning service is answering a different exam question.
Okay.
And that is looking at what the growth according to the methodology that underpins local plans. We have been asked to answer a different exam question for Greater Cambridge. Greater Cambridge is a very unique and special place with the knowledge industries and the economic growth that is seen in this area. And to only look at it from the lens of the local plan process, which is used nationally across every area, doesn't allow for the maximising of the economic potential in the same way to enable the growth that can be supported in this area by provision and justification for the infrastructure investment that's needed.
Okay. No.
Thank you for that. So on chalk streams and natural environment, guided by the Advisory Council, I put a proposal together for £350,000 worth of funding on a range of different topics. and we'll be moving that forward towards back end of this year and next financial year. One element of that is going to be on chalk stream. So I've already commissioned that piece of work as a bit of a quick desktop study. I know the state that they're in. I know the quality of them is poor. So starting to do that piece of work already to really get to a point around tangible, meaningful interventions along the chalk stream complexes for us to be able to start to recover those systems. Within the next couple of weeks, I've convened an environment roundtable that will bring the nature partnership together, water expertise, government-facing expertise, Natural England Environment Agency, and a host of others as well, to actually look at that information and really guide us on where do we start to be able to do that. We do. I think the where we need to get to, and that's quite right. And I think part of that is around. I didn't say I was commissioned a strategy. I've commissioned a study for the actual tangible interventions along those complexes where we can actually make a difference.
Thanks, Nathan. Okay, I have 2 questions this side, a question here, and you at the back on number 8. So apologies for my rubbish chairing. I'm just trying to keep up with the people who are... if you would like to go, it's out of sequence, and then Councillor Toomey Hawkins, you're next. And then we have the gentleman at the back, John Preston, and then the gentleman at the back.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Adam. I'm one of the local Green candidates for Histon and Empington. Basically, I know affordability has been mentioned, but what is actual affordability? Because, as we know, most people can't actually afford the houses. And as we remember back, they said, I believe it was the Tory government, said £400,000 is affordable. Who can generally afford that, especially the younger people and those on low-paid jobs and that? I mean, it's just not. Then we've also got the accessibility issue in a lot of housing. It's non-existent, basically. Few houses have accessibility for like people in wheelchairs, for example. So they're locked out of a lot of private housing, council housing, and even trying to buy one if they can actually afford it. Will this be provided? Then there's the lack of council housing. All of these elements force people into private rents. There's the disabled people who can't necessarily even get any of these private rents if they can get any housing. So they're often in waiting lists or in emergency accommodation. So these are obviously big factors that need to be factored in. Are they going to be? Then there's obviously the environmental issues. Building more houses is going to cause environmental destruction, not just to the water issues we have, but there's also the biodiversity. And I know you mentioned biodiversity, but building houses is going to destroy that. We need more nature zones.
Okay, is there one question that I can put to perhaps Bridget? Yeah.
But I can do a quick cover of that. So these are so you're quite right. So these are issues that we deal with every single day. So affordable. So even though we have a requirement for 40% of all new housing to be affordable, in this area, affordable is unaffordable to people on average income, and average income is below £30,000. So absolutely, it's unaffordable. So, but fortunately, both South Cambridgeshire and Cambridge City are council house stock owning councils. So in South Cambridgeshire, we built 130 new council houses last year. We're due to deliver 160 new council houses this coming year. So we're doing our best. But again, we're hamstrung by government policy because we can only use what's called our housing revenue account to build those council houses. So again, there needs to be a change in national policy. And my own view is, that personal view, is we need to stop right to buy because it just constantly diminishes our housing stock. So again, growth can actually. So when we're talking about environmental enhancements, you know, where's the money for new nature reserves and so on? Actually, it's development that delivers it. So one of our plans within the new joint local plan was a call for green sites, and I don't know that any other council's done this. So we have asked for sites for which we can use it to offset the damage that some developments do. And it's very difficult to deliver net gain on a lot of sites because actually there's not much there in the first place. So we are actually going to deliver more very, very high quality sites specifically for nature and hopefully for people to have access to as well. In South Cambridgeshire, we're doing a joint venture with Hill at the moment to build housing. All the 40% affordable housing, and they're all going to be council houses, are being built to net zero standards. So they will be triple glazed, they will have very, very high energy efficiency standards, because actually if you do that, it means that the bills are less. So building houses to very, very high energy efficiency standards means they're cheaper to run. And council houses tend to be people on lower income, so let's save them some money so that they're not spending what little money they have on utility bills as well. There's a more complicated answer, I'm sure.
Thank you, Bridget. Just to make sure we get the last few questions. You've been very patient at the back. We just have one question from the front row here, Councillor Hawkins. Then you're next, and then I'll come to this side. Is that okay? John, I know you've been waiting as well.
Hi, everyone. Tumi Hawkins, and I'm a South Cambs District Councillor, and I'm also the portfolio holder or cabinet member for planning. So the award-winning Greater Cambridgeshire Planning Service has been in my portfolio the last 8 years. And you can see I'm grey because of it. No, but seriously though, I mean, the idea of actually creating an urban development corporation to deliver housing in what is really a rural area is an oxymoron. And I think it has been said, there is, as far as I can see, there is nothing that a DevCo can bring that we are not doing already. And I'll keep saying this. So I'm saying to them, and I say that every time, leave us alone. Yes. Right? Just leave us alone. As it is, and I need to make a correction, we have been more ambitious than the standard method has been for the last 2 planning periods. In fact, by the time the standard method was revised last year, the number you've come up with is slightly less than what we were looking at. So we've been ambitious. Now, there is something that the Development Corporation can do, which is bring forward infrastructure to enable us deliver all the planning permissions. Where there's 37,000 permissions not yet delivered. And that's because of infrastructure, transport, water, sewage, right? Please do that, but work with us, leave my planners where they are. And I call them my planners, right? Because if you take the planning powers away, you're breaking up what is a career progression. You are taking away our income, right? You're reducing the income of the local authority. Don't leave us with enforcement, which costs money. They want us to clear up the mess that developers will create. No, we don't want to do that. Now, at the end of the day, there's also market absorption. You mentioned that earlier on. Different types of houses that people need. But at the same time, how are you going to deliver the planning permissions? It's not the permissions that's the problem. It's delivering the permissions. It's building the houses out. That is what the DevCo should focus on. And leave the planners where they are. Bring in a service level agreement. We'll work with you. But do not break us up.
Thank you, Tumi. Not yet, Donald. Thank you. I'm going to take the question from the gentleman standing at the back, get an answer, and then try and pick up.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much to the woman who's campaigned on my behalf to speak. My name's Terry McAllister. I'm a former Labour councillor. I've been living in Cambridge for 20 years. I've got a young son who desperately needs housing. I'm a friend of the CAM. I was involved in the steering group. And I'm a member of this college. And I'm a writer, an author, a filmmaker on environmental issues. I wrote about that for The Guardian for more than 15 years. And I'm not politically aligned. And I'd just like to say my first point would be, don't be disparaged in this room by the sort of suggestion that you're kind of looking after some kind of vested interest. This argument that growth is being hampered by very selfish older people is a scam put forward by corporate interests in Cambridge and nationally. And this government, we went to see our local MP, Daniel Zeichner, last week, and we put to him our concerns about the state of the river. And he made it clear that that was not a huge issue in his view. He thought that there would not be a challenge from the Green Party that would be significant to his future. He is living in cloud cuckoo land. Green councillors are already... I'm not a member of the Green
Sorry,
Party.
is there a question in there? I don't mean to be rude.
I guess, okay, I'll go to a question. Eleanor, you talked about you need investment from the private sector for more growth. Now, basically, the infrastructure in Cambridge is already... We've had 15 years of growth. And what has it produced, apart from traffic congestion, destruction of the river, more and more pressure on Adam Brooks, and you know, a city that's kind of log-jammed and unaffordable. There isn't... Hill, who the leader of the council mentioned earlier as a developer, which is a very big developer, why have they been selling houses in Hong Kong, in Cambridge?
Is that your question?
It's an absolute lie that this city doesn't have enough houses in development.
And your question?
My question is, Eleanor, what makes you think that the government will give you... Have you actually asked the government whether they will change all sorts of laws around housing that will... Why aren't we... Are you asking them, why can't the council build housing? Why is it always up to the private sector who are purely motivated by profit? They land bank, they don't want to build really because they don't want to reduce value.
Apologies, conscious we're running out of time. Couple of sentence answer to that, Beth?
Do you want me to come back on Tumi's question first or pick up that one?
Can you wrap it up together?
Okay. So, I mean, I think one of the key things that we do need to do is we've got to look at all of the different mechanisms to capture value out of growth, because you can't just deliver growth without ensuring that it also pays for the investment that is needed in infrastructure, be it blue or green infrastructure, be it affordable housing. It is absolutely at the heart of the plans that need to be brought forward and the funding strategy that needs to underpin the approach that we're taking to growth. Growth cannot come forwards unless you can prove that you have got a case to actually deliver the infrastructure, and that includes the environmental infrastructure that is needed to be safeguarded and reinvested in. So I think that's the sort of first point. I mean, we will look to ensure that the value is captured. There's many different mechanisms and there's different income streams that government will also receive beyond land value capture from the actual developers. Growth in the knowledge industries and in the economy, given the special economy that is in Greater Cambridge, has a huge opportunity to generate income and prosperity, both for national government to utilise, but also to be reinvested back into the local area. And that's at the heart of what we're trying to do.
Okay, just because we've overrun, we have a question here, and you can only really do one sentence, I'm afraid. And John Preston in front of you and Anthony Carpen, I think that's right, and that you'll have to do one sentence questions for the panel, and then we'll wrap up after we've heard your 3 questions, I'm afraid, or we'll be here all night. Interesting as it is.
I was Susan Buckingham. I was going to ask this quite dramatically, but the essence of it is, in 30 years, we're going to be underwater. We've got 2 kinds of water problems. One is we haven't got enough under the ground. We have a reservoir that's going to be proposed to be filled by 3 rivers, 2 of which are saline at the point of abstraction to go into the reservoir. And sea level is rising by 1 metre by 2100. And it's likely to be higher by all forecasts.
Sorry to push you.
My question is, what on earth are we doing building in a flood zone? And especially when you're talking of a horizon of 25 to 40 years, is utter madness.
Okay, hold that question. Thank you. Sorry to cut you off. John?
Very quick question. Cambridge was nominated for World Heritage status in the 1980s. It is still of World Heritage significance. Why no mention of this?
Okay. Anthony, last question, then I'm going to ask the panel. That's the very last question. I'm sorry. And then the panel will reply to all of them at once.
Anthony Carpen, local historian, amongst other things. Given the lack of capacity in the construction industry, as we're constantly hearing, to deliver, well, build anything, please can ministers, the government, the growth company consider building a new lifelong learning college so that adults like myself can look at moving into those sectors where apparently we keep on having shortages, including the construction sector and the sci-tech sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Beth, do you want to start, and then other panellists?
Yeah, I'm going to go start with that Anthony's one. Completely agree, and we're looking at that. So thank you, and I agree with that. And I think on the World Heritage, absolutely. I mean, it's one of the things that makes Cambridge special. Apologies for not mentioning that today. It sort of goes to some extent without saying, but we should say it, and we should reinforce that, and we should make sure that we are, everybody who works across this Greater Cambridge region needs to respect that and make sure it's protected. So I completely agree. I think in relation to the lady's comments on water, we are taking water really seriously. So one of the first steps that we undertook was to appoint Dr. Paul Leinster, who is one of the foremost water experts, to sit on the advisory council alongside the local leaders. We constituted the water scarcity group to bring the water companies and the variety, and I didn't realise how many regulatory bodies there were with water, but all of those water bodies together. And that has now led to a DEFRA ministerial level task force where Cambridge has been identified as a priority. And that enables the ministers, secretaries of state to bring the water companies in front of them, hold them to account, and to start to ask these issues and to make sure that they are being escalated upwards as far as possible, and that work is ongoing. It is not going to create solutions overnight. This is a really, really difficult challenge, and we all need to work collectively together to identify the solutions and to bring that forward. But we are doing that and pulling all the organisations together.
Thank you, Beth. Any other panellists quickly want to?
So very, very quickly. So rising sea levels. You know, this is for governments to sort out, and they're doing a really rubbish job worldwide on that at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, World Heritage. Yeah, it's why. I mean, I was a student in this college as well. It's why I love it here. But actually, those of us in South Cambridge, I think South Cambridge is every bit as special and lovely as Cambridge City as well. So, and actually, skills and things like lifelong learning is a responsibility of the mayor. And so you need to lobby him.
I don't think we can top that unless anyone else wants. Wendy, do you want?
I just wanted to say a lot of this is very dependent on investment, public and private investment. And I did notice, for example, at one of the public inquiries, the Cambridge public inquiry, that Peter Freeman did say that the busway had to go ahead, otherwise investors would get worried. And there's been a number of media reports today saying that there's been a lot of talk about these government infrastructure programs, but there's been no mention about what money is coming from the government. So I think those are some questions to be answered.
Thank you. Well, I think we'll draw things to a close. You've been an amazing audience. I think we could be talking here till midnight, if not going into tomorrow. So thank you for all the brilliant questions. Thank you so much to the panel for answering, for the team for helping and supporting. Can I just say thank you to Cambridge Past, Present and Future for organising tonight. It would be wrong of me. You can show your appreciation in the donation buckets at the back or online, because this is a journey, it's nowhere near over. You want a local organisation to be helping and supporting the discussion.